A new year doesn't always mean a new start, but I want to encourage you to keep up your momentum in 2022. I'm Dr. Jonathan. I work with organizations to make them inclusive, and I'm on a mission to help 1 million people like you to make your workplace inclusive. Get your pen and paper ready, because I want to give you 3 habits to boost inclusion all year round. As a regular member of our audience, you already know that I'm pretty upbeat most of the time. I'm actually really upbeat at the start of the year. Not everyone is. I'm always understanding of this, but this year feels like it's a little harder for people to get started. It's not hard to see why. The last couple of years have not been easy for us at all. For some of us, it's been devastating. In 2020, if you listened to my first episode of the year, as I said, I was upbeat. New year, new decade, new rules. I was right, but like you, I didn't expect what we all experienced. For many of us, 2021 felt like an extension of 2020. It felt like we were managing the effects of 2020. In 2021, if you listen to my first episode of the year, I said that what started in 2020 is not over and you need to do something about it. I said that not only are some of us still tired from last year, I said some of us are tired from this year. I also said that we all need to accept that the things that were started need to be concluded. And this also means your inclusion journey. It needs to be concluded, which means you need to continue now and into the future. That's why I'm on a mission to help 1 million people like you to make your workplace inclusive. That's why I'm here each and every week to inform and educate you using applied research and thought leadership. That's why I'm doing what I can to help you to make a difference where you work. And that's also why I've got 3 specific exercises. You can call these habits, you can call it a challenge. It's 3 things that I want you to do from today, and this will help you to remain steadfast on your inclusion journey in 2022 and for the future. The first thing is to read and share with purpose. What does that mean? Well, let's start with share with purpose. I always want you to share episodes of this podcast, but to share with purpose, don't just send it to someone and say, this is interesting, this is insightful. Tell them why it's insightful. Tell them why it's interesting. Tell them how you've changed because of it. Ask them to hold you accountable or offer to discuss it with them later. You can do any of these things that I've just mentioned. You benefit because it means that you're reading, you're consuming with purpose. But they benefit because they understand how valuable the podcast is and its effect on you. That's what makes it so valuable. It's you. Obviously, it doesn't have to be a podcast. Try this for books, articles, anything that you share with anyone. The reason this matters is because you're setting a new standard for yourself and for others. It also manages expectations for reading with purpose. So what's reading with purpose? Read more, listen to more, watch more, but only things that you think are important or will benefit you. If you're not sure, don't do it. If someone you know sends you something to listen to, saying that it's insightful, this is the effect it's had on me, this is how I'm changing in the future, would love to discuss this with you. I think you should listen to that because I think it will be valuable. If someone you know sends you something to watch saying this is insightful, I don't think you should watch it because I don't know if it's valuable. I don't think you can afford to get this wrong over and over again. I wrote a post on LinkedIn about my tips for reading with purpose and my low information diet. I'll put these in the show notes. The second thing is to make the best use of the resources that you already have. I'm a huge fan of Jay Abraham. He's known for his work in marketing and strategy, and he's got a book and it's called Getting Everything You Can Out of All You've Got. The title says it all, but it's also a challenge. How can you get everything you can out of all you've got? What resources do you have available and how do you use them to become more inclusive where you work? Maybe you need to better allocate what you have. Maybe you need to make better use of what you've got. There's a lot of resources that are available to you right now, even if you think you don't have a budget, even if you think you don't have support. This podcast is a resource that's available for you for free. Are you getting everything you can out of it? Do you put it into practice? Do you answer the questions I ask every single week? That would be a really good place to start, and you've got nearly 230 of them to choose from. The third and final thing is about the business case for diversity. For as long as you can, this year, don't mention the business case for diversity. I'm not saying ignore it, just don't talk about it. Don't talk about the business case for diversity where you work. Leave it to people with different motives. They're going to stand out. You'll recognize this from work. Nearly everyone talking about the business case for diversity to you and your stakeholders either one, wants to sell you something, experts, authors, consultants, they love talking about it, or two, they want to look smarter than they are. You know who I'm talking about. The colleague who shared the McKinsey report and thinks that it proves that diversity is good for business. As a regular member of our audience, you already know that anyone who speaks like that hasn't read the report properly. They probably shouldn't be your number one trusted advisor. I am, because I'm here every week for you. When it comes to the McKinsey report, I've done 2 breakdowns of 2 of the McKinsey reports in detail that you won't find anywhere else. The reason I want you to avoid using the phrase business case for diversity when talking about this with your colleagues is that you'll also avoid one of the 3 biggest problems that organizations experience on their inclusion journey, and that's performance. Organizations find it difficult to articulate a business case for diversity for their specific organization. If anyone you worked with had a business case for diversity for your specific organization, they would talk about all the amazing things that have happened or were happening because of diversity, equity, inclusion, etc. They would use specific terms that everyone you work with already understands. They would use the language of your workplace. They would use the acronyms and processes that only you and your colleagues know about. They wouldn't need to talk about a business case for diversity any more than you need to talk about a business case for accounting or for HR. Clearly, I'm oversimplifying, but you get the point. Avoiding this language frees up your time to actually explore a business case for diversity in your specific organization. You can explore how it shows up in your specific organization. And that's very valuable. That's game changing. There's not a lot of people where you work who are doing this. And what I've said is very simple, but it's not easy. However, your challenge, if you choose to accept it, is to do this as much as you can this year. If you do this, by the end of the year, you will look like no one else, you will sound like no one else, and you will behave like no one else. And that's exactly what your workplace needs. So let's wrap this up. What are the key messages here? 1. Share and read with purpose. 2. Get everything you can out of all you've got. And 3. Don't mention the business case for diversity. So what do you think? What habits will you start this year? Get in touch or leave a message. I would love to hear from you. If you've learned something from today's show, then give us a review wherever you're listening to this podcast. It helps other people like you to find the show. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.